beginners, okay? So my name is Syed, and I'm an AWS certified DevOps engineer and IT enterprise architect. So let's dive into the DevOps guide for absolute beginners, okay? I'll also cover AWS DevOps engineers' day-to-day activities. So you'll know exactly what a DevOps engineer does. But first, what is DevOps? DevOps is a software development approach that simply emphasizes collaboration, communication, and integration between software development teams and IT operations. So the goal of DevOps is to create a culture of continuous integration and continuous delivery, enabling organizations to release software faster and with higher quality. Now the key principles of DevOps, right, is collaboration, and DevOps emphasizes collaboration between development teams and IT operations, encouraging open communication and breaking down of silos, right? So continuous integration and continuous delivery, which is known as CI/CD, and DevOps relies on automated testing and deployment processes to enable frequent small releases of software. So automation, really how DevOps leverages is to increase efficiency and reduce errors into the development process. And as far as monitoring is concerned, DevOps emphasizes monitoring and feedback to ensure that software is performing as expected in production, right? So popular cloud platforms such as Azure, GCP, or AWS within DevOps, right? And these cloud platforms, for example, Google Cloud, or Azure, or AWS, or Heroku, for example, they offer a range of services that are used in DevOps. So I'm going to talk about just briefly compare each platform. The GCP, for example, is a cloud computing platform by Google that offers a range of services such as compute, storage, databases, and networking. Now, Google Cloud also provides support for continuous integration and delivery through tools such as Google Cloud deployment, right? Now, GCP is particularly popular among organizations that use Google technologies and tools. Kind of makes sense, right? Now, coming back to Microsoft Azure is also a cloud computing platform from Microsoft that offer a range of services such as compute, storage, databases, networking, you name it, right? Now, Azure DevOps is simply a suite of tools that provide support for continuous integration and delivery, as well as collaboration and project management. Now, Azure is popular among organizations that use Microsoft technologies and tools, people who are working with Microsoft. And the third is, of course, Amazon, AWS Cloud Computing Services, which is a cloud computing platform by Amazon, right? It has compute, storage, databases, networking, routing, you name it. Now, AWS provides support for continuous integration and delivery through tools such as AWS Code Pipeline and AWS Code Deployment. Now, AWS is popular among organizations that require high scalability and reliability, scalability. Similarly, the last one is Heroku. It's by Salesforce that enables developers to deploy, manage, and scale applications, right? Now, Heroku provides support for continuous integration, continuous delivery, such as Heroku CI/CD, for example. Now, all these are different types of cloud platforms that you can choose, or depends on which organization you work for and what they're using, right? And it does support Ruby, Python, and so on. So each, platform has its own set of strengths and weaknesses, and the choice depends on the organization, right? And the needs and the requirements. So let's compare all these platforms briefly. In terms of scalability, GCP, Azure, and AWS, they offer scalable infrastructure that can support high traffic applications, okay, and then websites. Now, Heroku also provides scalability through its, dynos, which are known as containers, right? Similarly, like Kubernetes containers and Docker containers. Now, as far as ease of use is concerned, Heroku is fairly easy to use, okay, because it requires minimal setup and configuration. And GCP and Azure are a little bit more complex as compared to Heroku, whereas AWS has tons and tons of services. Now, integration with other services is relatively easier with Azure, right? But if you're working with GCP, it's perfect with Google services. Now, Amazon or AWS, it is the most flexible, which is AWS, and that's why we can recommend using AWS, right? Now, Heroku also integrates itself with Git or GitHub, and as far as the cost is concerned, it is go to pricing models. Pretty much all these platforms offer the same, but the pricing structure and rates can vary significantly between platforms. Now, for a DevOps engineer to evaluate the strengths and weaknesses of each platform and choose the one that kind of best meets your need, right, or your company's needs. Now, many DevOps professionals kind of like work with multiple or cross-platform, right, and migrating applications across different environments. Now, DevOps tools and technologies are different for each one of them. For example, source control or SCM tools like Git or version control, SVM, or version control tools, continuous integration, CI tools, for example, like Jenkins, right, is pretty popular. They automate the build tasks and deployment processes, okay? And as far as configuration management is concerned, like Puppet, Chef, Ansible, these are all automating your configuration deployments, right? Now, containerization and orchestration like Docker, Kubernetes, they enable the the management of containers or containerized application rather, right? As far as different tools are concerned in DevOps, it has a wide range of tools, right, to support its processes and activities. Now, all these tools are designed to help and automate processes, streamline workflows, increase operational efficiency, and of course, increase collaboration. Let me give you examples of some of the DevOps tools, right? For example, continuous integration or CI/CD. Tools, for example, are there to automate the process, right? Testing and deploying software to production. So for example, popular CI/CD tool is Jenkins, GitLab, and Circle CI. Fairly popular. As far as configuration management tools are concerned, they simply enable teams to manage and enable the applications themselves, okay? Now, examples of popular configuration, they include Chef, Puppet, right? Now, containerization tools, right, which are pretty popular because many companies use these, right? And they simply use the package applications and deploy applications in portable format. Now, examples, for example, are Docker, which is fairly popular, and Kubernetes. Now, infrastructure as code or ISC is extremely powerful and useful to learn and to have as a DevOps engineer. For example, Terraform, right? That's very popular. So other examples are, like I said, Terraform, CloudFormation, and Ansible. Let's dive into monitoring tools, right? That simply allow teams to analyze performance and availability of applications and infrastructure, right? So for example, popular tools are Prometheus, Grafana, right? These are all monitoring tools. So as far as collaboration and communication tools are concerned, we're looking at the ability for teams to work more effectively, share information, communicate, and track progress, okay? So some examples of popular tools and communication tools include Slack, Microsoft Teams. These are the two more popular teams, right? Now, there are many other tools that are also available, but depending on the organization and what they're currently using and what these DevOps engineers have decided to use, they would use that, right? But choosing and selecting the right tool is important, right? So that your DevOps pipelines and processes remain efficient. So DevOps tools certainly is very essential in terms of the entire pipeline building, right? So they enable teams to automate processes, streamline workflows, and improve collaboration. Now, when you choose the right tools for the job and staying up to date within the industry trends, DevOps engineers and professionals can improve their efficiency, right, and effectiveness within the role and help the company grow. For example, Terraform as infrastructure as a code, very, very powerful tool, right? And very popular open source tool is used in the DevOps workflow to manage your infrastructure as code. And infrastructure as code is a process of defining and managing IT instead of manual processes. You can automate, right? And let me give you some reasons why Terraform is important or useful. First is increased efficiency. It enables teams to manage infrastructure as code, which means that they can define, provision, and manage their infrastructure in a repeatable and automated way. Now, this can save time and reduce the risk of errors that may happen in manual processes. By the way, give it a thumbs up, guys, if you like so far. I certainly appreciate that, and thank you all for your support, right? So, talk about Terraform again. Let's move forward. And Terraform changes can be tracked in Terraform, right? And you can use Git to do that. And this enables teams to work together on infrastructure projects in a more organized and coordinated manner. Now, consistency within Terraform, it enables teams to define infrastructure as code, which means that the infrastructure is defined in a standardized manner. Now, what this does, it reduces consistencies that may occur with manual processes, right? So it kind of helps that. As far as scalability is concerned, it enables teams to manage infrastructure by defining infrastructure as code itself. Now, what this means is that teams can quickly provision, infrastructure resources without manual intervention, for example. The agility of Terraform is awesome because it allows you to quickly respond to changes in infrastructure, right? So if you want to change S3 buckets, EC2 instances, it's easier to use Terraform and then change it, right? So teams can make changes in infrastructure resources more easily and quickly, which is certainly critical in fast-paced, development environments. So let's quickly summarize Terraform, right? Because it enables teams to work more efficiently, collaborate more effectively, and then ensure consistency, scale infrastructure as enterprise companies grow. Now, with Terraform, teams can manage their infrastructure as code, right? And they achieve these benefits, which can help them deliver high quality software products, right? And more efficient pipeline processes. All right, let's take into DevOps workflow, which is simply a set of processes that enables teams to work collaboratively to develop, test, and deploy more efficiently, okay? So let me give you the steps that are involved in DevOps workflow. And I'm going to give you this guide, by the way. I'll post a link down below so you can download the entire PDF guide. So first is defining the requirement of the project, creating a roadmap, and then setting timelines and milestones as you move forward, right? And then the dev team writes the code for the project and develops software, right? And then they use coding best practices, of course, right? And version control tools like Git, they create branches to push the code, and of course, manage accordingly, right? Then the code is built, right? The next step into executable software. Like you can use Maven, Gradle to build tools, or Jenkins to build the processes, right? Now this process also can include unit testing. So QA guys would jump in here and then they would do the testing on the code. Now the software is then tested, such as you can use tools like Selenium, there's a popular tool that you can use, and then you can use to help reduce the risk for errors. Now, the software is then deployed into production finally, right? And you can use deployment tools such as Chef, Puppet, and Ansible, right? And these deployment processes can then be automated to ensure that it is consistent and error-free. And that's the entire automation of the pipeline. And finally, the monitoring, right? Because it's important to monitor using tools such as Nagio, Zabbix, or New Relic, right, which are fairly popular. Now, this allows all these teams to identify issues quickly, proactively, and then you can, fix the bugs, right? Now, this DevOps workflow that I just mentioned has the feedback loop, which allows the teams to continuously improve their processes and make it efficient, right? And that's really the feedback which is obtained through automated testing or monitoring data, okay? Now, the best practices with DevOps is always document your processes and procedures, guys. You can use automation as much as possible. For example, 3, focus on collaboration and communication, right? Continuously monitor and analyze metrics to improve your existing processes. Now, also always implement a culture of continuous improvement, right? Now, how do you validate your skills? Of course, you got to get certified, right? For example, it has AWS offers several certifications, the topmost being the AWS Certified DevOps Engineer. Now, the idea behind these certification is that it demonstrates that you have the skills and the skills are validated through these certifications. Now, some of these certifications that are particularly relevant to DevOps, for example, are AWS Certified DevOps Engineer, like I mentioned earlier, professional. Now, this certification validates advanced technical skills and experience in deploying, managing, operating, monitoring AWS services for DevOps processes and pipelines. Now, AWS Certified Solutions Architect, on the other hand, right? For example, this certification focuses on the design, deployment, scalable, highly scalable, and fault-tolerant systems on the AWS platform, which is certainly an important component of the DevOps processes. Now, the AWS Certified SysOp Admin, for example, Associate, this certification focuses on the deployment, management, and operation systems on AWS itself, which is an important aspect for DevOps process, right? Now, what are the benefits, right? What are you going to get out of it if you get certified? Well, first is the validation of expertise, right? Because it demonstrates proficiency in AWS technologies and allows and tells companies that, hey, you are skilled, right? As far as career advancement is concerned, this also helps. It also helps you improve job prospects because you will be approached by many, many recruiters, individuals to, go up in your career ladder, okay? Also, access to AWS resources. AWS certification, for example, provide access to AWS resources such as training, certification communities, discounts on your next exam. You get vouchers, right? Discounted vouchers. And of course, the important thing is that it also gives you the enhanced credibility and trustworthiness in the eyes of clients, stakeholders, and other colleagues, okay? But how do you actually get a DevOps job? And again, I'm just going through the guide here, guys, right? Just you can download it and take a look at it yourself, but it's very important, okay? But how do you end up with a DevOps job? Once you have all these certifications, you have the skills, cloud computing platforms, understanding cross-platform, the best time and effort in getting relevant skills through online courses, like you can go to ClayDesk.com or visit blog.claydesk.com for all the resources, and I have a list of all these in particular steps. Now, the way you find jobs is you attend conferences, you go to LinkedIn, you build your CV, you network with other individuals, and building relationships is key because it helps a lot. It helps you get referrals from other jobs, colleagues. You can also create a compelling CV and resume, and I'm going to talk about this in the subsequent live streams that we're going to do. I'm going to show you exactly what a perfect DevOps resume looks like, okay? So stay tuned on that. Of course, comment down below if you have any questions. I'll be happy to answer those. Now, once you highlight your achievement within your CV, for example, it helps recruiters to kind of absorb that immediately, and then you are called for the interview, okay? So there are technical questions, there are behavioral questions. So be prepared to demonstrate your technical skills, your experience, the projects that you're working on, and then of course how you would collaborate with team, how would you solve problems, and how well you work with other teams, right? So it's really the portfolio of your work that helps demonstrate your skills and experience to potential employers. Now, always include examples of automation scripts, code examples, and any relevant projects or experience that you have. And always stay up to date because learning is a continuous process and it's a rapidly evolving field. So you gotta stay current on all these technologies and trends, okay? So for that, you can read industry blogs, or you can go to blog.claydesk.com, and boom, we have all the latest articles for you and the latest trends in DevOps. Now, another thing you can do is like LinkedIn, Indeed, Glassdoor, are awesome places for you to search for DevOps job, whether it's entry level or you want to jump up your career, right? You can filter job listing by location, by experience level, and other criteria that you put in. Now, company career pages, by the way, they have dedicated career pages on their website, and that's something that is sometimes overlooked, but check them out, right? Check the career pages in companies and see if they have any DevOps positions available or open currently, okay? Another very important is recruiting agencies. Recruiters will go crazy at you if you have these certifications, and they would just find and book interviews for you guys, okay? I have many students who have 3, 4, 5 interviews, and then they sort of like decide which job to take, okay, which is a good thing. Another thing you can do is by joining professional associations like DevOps Institute, for example, or AWS user groups, right? Or job openings on their website or newsletters. So there's hunting techniques that you can find the right job for you. Read through the description so you know exactly what you would like to do, okay? And then you can also connect with recruiters and other professionals within the industry, okay? And then you can also follow relevant companies, because if you follow those companies, anytime there's a new job popping up, you would get an alert, right? And then of course, referrals are key, because hey, if I'm looking for someone, I'll ask my colleague, hey, do you got a person? I want to hire someone. I will ask my colleague, my friends, or within the group, right? Now, there are many services or resources available, right? You can go online job boards, company career, recruiting agencies, for example, professional associations, right? Social media, for example, and referrals, right? So by using a combination of these resources and staying persistent in your search, you can increase your chance to find a job that matches your skill, right? So that you get there. So let me finally give you exactly what DevOps engineer do, because I mentioned I'll talk about the activities, right? So they might perform day-to-day activities, for example, designing and implementing CI/CD pipelines. So an AWS DevOps engineer might use tools like AWS Code Pipeline, for example, or AWS Code Build and AWS Code Deploy, right, to set up an entire pipeline for a web application from start to finish. Now, this pipeline might include stages for building, testing, and deploying the application itself, with each stage automatically triggered by code change using Git, okay? So a developer pushes the code and boom, everything flows. So in terms of monitoring day-to-day activities of a DevOps engineer is, you can use AWS X-Ray, for example, is a good service that monitors the application running on AWS, right? So if something happens or if there's an issue, you can use AWS Cloud Trail or AWS Cloud Config to investigate the issue and take corrective action. These are common tools that we use every single day. We also use, for example, tools like Ansible, right, to manage the configuration of EC2 instances, right, because that's configuration management tools. We also we can write Ansible playbooks, right, so that we know that AWS instances are configured correctly, as an example, right, and all the software is correctly installed, okay? As far as the IaaC, infrastructure as code, is concerned, we can use CloudFormation, which is a AWS native tool, or we can use Terraform to write code. That kind of helps provision, and then we have the ability to manage cross-platform, okay? But if you're in AWS, then of course we use CloudFormation templates, okay? That's fairly common. We do it every single day, or we make changes to existing templates, okay? Now we can deploy these templates into multiple accounts, AWS accounts. We can also do, typically, for example, AWS Lambda. That's like going serverless, for example, if you are. But that's really, really key service to learn, and then we use it every day, okay? To scale resources, for example, up and down based on demands, we can use Lambda. We use AWS Systems Manager to run scripts and automate and different tasks, for example. We also use, by the way, in terms of collaboration and communication, we work with tools and we work with developers, we work with operations team. We are the bridge between the dev and the ops, okay? And we also work with, like I said, platform engineers to ensure that the entire AWS infrastructure is running smoothly, and then it meets all the compliance and regulatory requirements. Okay, so for all of this, staying up to date is key. Okay, because learning every single day is awesome. Is a must. Okay, so attending events or checking out new webinars from AWS site. And by the way, I have a whole list of AWS white papers on our blog .claydesk.com. Check them out. Very useful. Um, and then we also, once we take a look at all these new trends and services, as DevOps engineers, we evaluate and then we recommend to the company as to whether we should adopt these or not, right? So, but in general, overall, our role is to ensure that AWS infrastructure and applications are running efficiently, securely, and reliably, yet at the same time, continuously improving these processes, right? And making sure we have the operational efficiency. Let me give you some DevOps resources. There are tons and tons of AWS DevOps resources available. Um, they're all at our blog, like I mentioned earlier. But if you want to take online courses, you can go to claydesk.com, check out all these courses, or right here on YouTube, we have tons and tons of free courses, full courses that you can take a look at, and of course, practice as you go along. Now, many online platforms, other platforms that are Udemy, Coursera, edX, ClayDesk, and you name it, okay? And their blogs, website, and tons of resources, guys. It's just out there. And the idea behind all these resources is that the more you sort of like read and learn, the better it becomes, right? So you get to a point where you become, your skills become, they increase more and more as time progresses, right? And once you start networking with other colleagues into events and conferences, you get to know new issues, you get to know people, you get to know new trends. And the popular conferences that I've been attending is DevOps Days, for example, or reInvent at AWS. These are very helpful forums to go and check them out and network, right? So all these communities simply provide platform for professionals to share ideas, right? And ask for advice, because we talk to each other, right? And that's easier. And then of course there are many topics on DevOps, for example, like culture, tools, best practices, and some of these popular tool or DevOps are Phoenix Project, for example, right? And these are all the areas that, as a DevOps engineer, you're continuously moving around all of this, right? And you have to stay put and stay in, so that when you are working with these tools or going to conferences or events, that's important. All right, so finally, let's conclude this, right? It's a powerful approach. DevOps is very powerful, right? It emphasizes automation, monitoring. So by implementing DevOps principles, for example, and leveraging the right tools and technologies, organizations can move software faster and with higher quality. Okay? Let me give you a bonus, guys. This is for you guys. So if you are into DevOps, it's easy to create scripts using Chat GPT, right? You can create a code snippet related to a specific DevOps task. For example, if you want to create AWS infrastructure using CloudFormation, ask Chat GPT to create it for you. It'll just boom, right here. It'll do it for you, right? For example, another example is troubleshooting. So if you're troubleshooting, you want to find a bug, you can ask ChatGPT for how to troubleshoot common coding errors, okay? And then suggest potential solutions. So it's a great tool that just came out, which is AI tool. And Amazon has its own tool, AI tool, which is known as Code Whisperer, by the way. Check that out. So the common things that are used in DevOps, right, is Python, for example, scripting, or Bash scripting, that you can use ChatGPT to do it for you, okay? And of course, other than that, read through the documentation and go through all the services. As far as best practices are concerned, ensure that you understand how to read clean code, right? And then how to ensure security, compliance, and optimization. So typically, ChatGPT is certainly helpful within DevOps by providing you code snippets, troubleshooting, learning resources, and best practices and advice, right? It gives you tons and tons of good resources, highly productive. It increases your productivity, right? Okay. Um, of course, there's some limitations to DevOps or ChatGPT, but it's always a good idea to verify code before you actually go and using it in production. Right? So make sure you test it out, guys. Okay. All right. So if you need more information, by the way, go check out claydesk.com or blog.claydesk.com. I hope this helps. What I've done is I've covered the entire DevOps guide and day-to-day activities of a DevOps engineer. So if you're planning on getting certified or wanting to jump into this field, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a link in the description so that you can check out and download the guide for yourself. And that's all for free, guys. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, and of course share, like, and comment down below, and that's the best way we can move forward. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Syed, and I'll see you guys next time.